The battlefield changed its heartbeat the moment the dead stood up again. One instant carried screams, collapsing lines, and the thunder of giant footsteps. The next carried silence. Then the corpses moved. Adalmann raised his hand, and death answered him like an obedient army returning to its king. The giants who had crushed entire formations suddenly found themselves surrounded by immortal corpses that refused to stay buried. Massive undead soldiers clawed their way back into existence, towering over the battlefield like ancient sins dragged into daylight. Xian watched them rise with narrowed eyes, realizing even she had never heard of this spell before. Adalmann had hidden it from everyone. He trusted caution more than hope. Create Immortal Legion carried too many unknowns, too many risks, too little testing. Yet now the gamble breathed life into the impossible. Relief quietly settled across Adalmann's skeletal face as the spell stabilized. Ghidorah almost laughed in admiration. "That's my best friend for you, isn't it?" Pride filled his voice because he understood what everyone else finally saw. Adalmann never relied on miracles. He engineered them. Louis stared across the battlefield with something heavier than respect. Regret haunted him. Memory haunted him even more. The 7 days had no idea what they were dealing with. For Louis, the battlefield stopped resembling war. It started resembling judgment. He remembered Adalmann before undeath consumed him. He remembered Alberto before armor and silence transformed him into legend. Back then, both men stood among the Holy Church's greatest champions. Adalmann mastered sacred magic so completely that allies feared his potential. Alberto carried the title of strongest paladin alive, a warrior who stood at sainthood's threshold. That greatness invited envy. The 7 days clergy orchestrated their downfall beneath the mask of righteousness. They called it purification. They called it holy duty. In truth, fear guided every decision. They sent Adalmann and Alberto toward a dragon zombie expecting corpses to return. Instead, monsters returned. Now those same fallen saints defended Rimuru Tempest with absolute loyalty while the battlefield trembled beneath their resurrection magic. Below the chaos, Alberto crossed swords with Glaysword. The duel looked impossible. Glaysword towered like a living fortress, his massive blade swinging with enough force to erase ordinary warriors instantly. Every movement carried brutal elegance. Strength and refinement fused perfectly inside him. He fought like a natural disaster trained by centuries of warfare. Yet Alberto endured. He moved like a willow in the wind, bending around destruction instead of contesting it directly. Sparks exploded across the battlefield every time their weapons collided. Giants stumbled backward from the shockwaves alone. Still, the most dangerous part of the duel remained invisible. Glaysword possessed Destroy Weapon. One touch shattered armor. One strike broke blades apart at their core. The skill turned every exchange into potential death. Only Alberto's god-class equipment preserved the balance between them. Neither warrior fully understood how fragile that balance truly was. One mistake promised catastrophe. Above the battlefield, Xian waited. That alone felt unnatural. Patience irritated her. Waiting irritated her even more when war raged directly beneath her feet. Behind her, Dagrul's sons watched the battlefield with reckless excitement bubbling inside them. Dad hasn't moved at all, though. Another laughed eagerly. Maybe we'll fight beside Uncle before this ends. Xian silenced them instantly. I'll be dealing with him, of course. Confidence filled her voice automatically. Pride demanded it. Loyalty demanded even more. Yet the brothers exchanged glances that carried something unfamiliar. Fear. To them, Dagrul transcended ordinary strength. He existed beyond the logic of battle itself. Even standing near him crushed resistance. Even breathing inside his aura felt suffocating. A real monster. Their warning lacked exaggeration. That sincerity unsettled Xian far more than boasting ever could. The battlefield suddenly ruptured before she could answer. Several death giants flew through the air like discarded toys. Bodies crashed across the warfront as silver chains flashed violently through the dust clouds. Then, Fenn appeared. Goosebumps spread instantly across Xian's skin. A towering figure wrapped entirely in chains walked calmly through destruction, while elite undead warriors shattered around him effortlessly. Every movement distorted the air itself. Every step carried enough pressure to suffocate weaker soldiers. Someone whispered shakily, "Oh, is that the one who was sealed off?" Ghidorah answered with fascinated horror. The chains surrounding Fenn were the legendary Gleipnir chaos bonds, restraints forged by the Dragon Emperor himself to seal violent gods. Yet the chains terrified nobody nearly as much as the smiling monster beneath them. Fenn looked delighted. The chains moved independently, whipping through the battlefield with predatory intelligence while he casually advanced through slaughter. Death giants exploded apart before even reaching him. Xian understood immediately. This enemy stood on the same level as the true dragons. For the first time since the war began, retreat sounded reasonable. Even Ultima casually asked, "Are we gonna retreat?" Xion almost considered it. Almost. Because retreat carried consequences heavier than death itself. If they abandoned the battlefield, innocent nations behind them would burn next. Cities would collapse. Families would vanish beneath giant footsteps. Fear hardened into resolve. "You got your eye on that old guy," Ultima said with a grin. "I'll take the other one raging around over there." The exchange sounded absurdly casual. Two monsters selecting opponents like nobles, choosing desserts before dinner. Then the battlefield descended into hell. A violent sandstorm exploded outward as Fenn advanced. Chains writhed around him like living serpents, while shattered undead bodies rained across the battlefield. His eyes locked onto Adalmann almost immediately. Commanders always became priority targets. Fenn understood war with terrifying clarity. Kill the general. Break the army. He launched forward with impossible speed. The Gleipnir chaos bonds expanded endlessly through the air, wrapping around Venti, the Gehenna dragon, before slamming her violently into the earth. The impact shook the battlefield hard enough to stagger entire formations. Adalmann barely escaped, barely mattered. Layered magical barriers collapsed instantly before Fenn's overwhelming strength. "You're in my way, you know? Die!" One strike smashed Adalmann across the battlefield with catastrophic force. The attack crushed more than flesh. It crushed momentum, hope, resistance itself. The battlefield fell silent. Fenn seized control completely. Then Ultima walked forward smiling. She moved through chaos like someone strolling through a peaceful garden rather than a collapsing warfront. Her eyes drifted toward the fallen Adalmann before settling on Fenn. Not too bad at all. Light laughter escaped her lips, though irritation flickered beneath the surface. Adalmann belonged to the 12 lordly guardians. Watching him discarded so effortlessly annoyed her. Fenn answered coldly. He was weak. Ultima understood that arrogance intimately because she carried the same instinct herself. Power distorted perspective. Weakness faded into irrelevance. Still, surrender never crossed her mind. "I'm Ultima, the Pain Lord," she declared playfully. "What's yours, you little rampager?" The duel erupted instantly. Elsewhere, Xian encountered something far worse. Dagrul appeared behind her without warning. No explosion, no magical surge, no distortion. One moment carried empty space. The next carried a god. He stood atop the long wall calmly, bypassing barriers and spatial defenses like they held zero meaning to him. That alone shattered logic. Every safeguard failed automatically before his presence. "Did you not see me?" His voice sounded gentle. That gentleness terrified her more than rage ever could. Because if not, you're not even qualified to stand in front of me. The words pierced deeper than intimidation. They carried certainty. Xian refused submission instantly. Pride surged through her veins as she declared herself Warlord and the Demon Lord Sir Rimuru most trusted secretary. Every ounce of strength exploded outward as she unleashed a devastating strike directly toward Dagrul's head. The blade stopped cold against his forehead. Invisible fighting spirit blocked it effortlessly. No movement. No strain. "So that is all you've got?" Reality finally crashed into Xian completely. This enemy existed beyond everything she understood. Beyond battle. Beyond monsters. Beyond fear itself. And somewhere beneath the collapsing sky, the war quietly crossed a line where survival alone stopped guaranteeing victory.